podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Hi, I'm Alex Yee. I'm a triathlete, and I'm super excited to be going to the Paris Olympics.
Hi, I'm Marion Franklin, a GB canoe slalom athlete.
Yeah, I'm Joe Clark. I am the Olympic champion from Rio 2016.
I'm Joe Fraser, Team GB gymnast.
Hey, my name's Emma Wilson. I'm a windsurfer. I'm really happy to be selected for Team GB for Paris 2024.
This is Anything But Footy, the Olympic and Paralympic podcast covering the games all the time rather than once every 4 years. I'm Michael.
And I'm John, and we're en route to Paris 2024.
And the latest stopover on our rather elaborate journey to the French capital is Manchester. Yep, I am in Manchester. It's a bit chilly and a bit wet, but not quite as wet as it was 12 months ago. The reason I'm here, the British Athletics Championships, doubling up as the British Olympic Trials. Oh, we've got a story to tell.
I won it. I wasn't expecting that at all.
Keep enjoying it because that's where the results have come. So try to stick to that today.
Yeah, we'll run through everyone who now know that they are on the train to France.
The CEO of UK Athletics, I was chatting to him a little earlier, Jack Buckner, says that we have a golden generation coming through. And I will tell you how an Olympic legend agrees.
How many times will Michael say Carl Lewis throughout this episode? We will wait and see. We've also got two more Team GB team announcements for you all over this weekend.
Carl Lewis. Do stay in touch with us. See what we're all about anytime. You can find us by searching on your social media platform of choice, Anything But Footy. You can go to our website, anythingbutfooty.com. So yes, I'm in Manchester. British Athletics Championships taking place here. We've had a terrific weekend of sport. Of course, this won't be the final event for many of these Team GB bound, Paris Olympic bound athletes. A lot of them will be in London for the Diamond League as well. Some of them will be jetting off now for little prep camps as well. But it has been a terrific weekend of sport. And I think particularly good is the young new names that have come to the fore this weekend. And referencing what Jack Buckner has said there about that golden generation coming through. This weekend, I've witnessed teenagers like Louis Hinchliffe come through in the men's 100 metres, and Phoebe Gill, a short while ago as we record, just 17 years of age, from St Albans, like all the best people are, coming through in the 800 metres ahead of Gemma Reekie as well. And 17-year-old Phoebe Gill is off to the Olympics. And I think Phoebe and I think Louis John, the two big headlines, the two big stories in terms of those new athletes that maybe people haven't heard of so much right now.
And I think what's interesting with both of those, because I was really interested to see how they would perform, because Phoebe, as you say, broke the record in Belfast earlier this season and got onto our radar, and how quickly she burst onto that scene. And you wondered, could she now transfer that onto the track in a big championships, a big crowd in Manchester, as you said. And the same with Louis as well. He's been training out in America, and I think and running, of course, out in the state system out there. And we've seen the likes of Josh Kerr go and perform out there, and Amber Anning, who's also qualified for Paris today in the 400 meters. She's huge out in America in that. So she's out there doing that. So more and more people are doing that. But Louis has come to a rainy night in Manchester. That's always the big question. Can you do it on a Tuesday night in the rain in Stoke? Well, he could do it on a rainy Saturday night in Manchester because he had the help of a certain Olympic legend that you have spoken to.
Yeah, I mean, if you remember the very, very first episode of this podcast that we recorded, and we spoke, didn't we, about what our early Olympic influences were. And we both went back to the year 1984. That is the age that we are. And I know I referenced Torvill and Dean because actually I remember the Winter Olympics before the Summer Olympics. But I think it's integral to what we are saying and doing now, what we watched and witnessed in 1984 at the Olympics there. And, you know, without any question, the biggest star of that Olympic Games was Carl Lewis. And when I talk about feeling old, I felt old because I was sat in the little interview zone where a lot of the members of the media and the content creators sit, and Carl Lewis walked past and I spotted him straight away. And I'd heard and seen that he was there because he is the coach of Louis Hinchliffe, of course, back in Houston. And I immediately recognized him, and I admit was pretty starstruck by seeing Carl Lewis up close and personal. But some of the younger members of the media and the content creators, no idea who he was. Didn't even look up from their iPads and their iPhones at Carl Lewis walking past. And yeah, the reason he was there, he was making a flying visit. I think he's already back home in America now. He was there to watch Louis Hinchliffe. Now, Hinchliffe ran a 9.84 wind-assisted 100 earlier on this year. Then he ran a legal 9.95 seconds, 6th then on the British all-time list. And he's qualified for the Olympics courtesy of winning this championship. He has the qualification time. Jeremiah Azu finished 2nd. Hinchliffe's time was 10.18. And Carl Lewis came. And those of us that hung around a little bit late on the Saturday evening, and I would suggest it was worth waiting for, Carl Lewis came and spoke to us all. And, you know, we recorded some content, Carl and I, which we'll hear on Talk Sport in the summer when we get to the Olympics. And, you know, he thinks that Louis Hinchliffe has the potential, has the tools to go all the way. It might not be this time, and I think just how neat, how apt might it be if Louis Hinchliffe's time comes in 2028 in Los Angeles.
Yeah, that would be full circle, wouldn't it, from a story point of view? So the men's 100 meters, he won it, so he's going. Zarnell had a medical exemption, exactly right. So he is going, and so it would be Azu who was 2nd. He's also going, Jeremy Azu.
Jeremiah Azu is you'd think, 3rd name on the team sheet there. So those will be the 3 in the individual 100 meters. And then obviously there will be 3 or 4 other names that will go as part of the relay team as well. But yeah, I mean, I was looking at Louis Hinchliffe. I mean, if you were to compare him in his physical makeup, if you were to stand him next to the likes of CJ Uja or Zarnell Hughes, he doesn't look as developed in terms of physicality as those two guys, but he's clearly rapid. And whatever he and Carl Lewis are doing is working. And you just have to think what potential he might have. And we have spoken, haven't we, about the difficulty of making that transition from junior into senior ranks. And that will be a tough thing. And the fact that a lot of people are hanging an Olympic medal around his neck for Los Angeles in 2028 is, I think, a big amount of pressure to put on young shoulders. But as it stands, he's qualified for these championships. The bigger picture, I think, for British athletics as well, is we've been looking, haven't we? And I think the organisation has been looking for a star. And I think Louis Hinchliffe and the stardust of Carl Lewis, we have a star, and we have someone that people will be talking about. He looks different to everybody else in terms of the hairstyle and everything else as well. His story of growing up in Sheffield, going to university in Lancaster, then going out to Houston is a great story too. And, that's what the Olympic Games are all about. It's about telling stories, and Louis Hinchliffe will be a story.
And of course, he asked Carl Lewis, "Get me to the Olympics," and that's what he's done. That's what he's done. What an incredible story! But also an incredible story is Phoebe Gill. You mentioned her as well, the 17-year-old who is now on her way to the Olympics. She won the 800 meters ahead of Jemmy Reiki, who's also going as well in that, and of course Keely Hodgkinson, who wasn't running in that, but we'll talk about her in a moment. But let's first hear from Phoebe Gill, the 17-year-old from St Albans, as you say, on her way to Paris 2024.
First of all, congratulations. What does that mean to you to have won in style and secured a place at the Olympic Games?
Well, I can't say anything else other than it means the world to me, because I've been so nervous for this race coming up. We've been talking it through with my coach, and I've been prepping it, and the fact that it all went to plan is just a dream come true, and I can't believe that I won it. I wasn't expecting that at all.
Can you talk us through it? Was it always the plan just to try and lead from the front?
Absolutely not. I mean, you can ask my coach. I literally said I do not want to be front running, because sometimes I can go a bit out of control. I mean, the last race that I did, when I front ran it, I did my 400 PB on the first lap, and then I just died on the last 100. So when I ended up being at the front on the first lap, I was like, oh my gosh, not this. So I still wanted to stick to my tactic of winding up on the last lap, and I did. And having Gemma on my shoulder was such an amazing thing to have, because I look up to her so much, and we just used each other to get to the line.
Let me ask you about the Olympic Games. What are your first Olympic memories?
First Olympic memories would be 2012. We got tickets, me and my family, to watch the hockey. And obviously I'm not a hockey player, so I don't actually remember it that well, but I do remember staying up until 2 o'clock in the morning for Tokyo to watch Keely on the television, and it's just amazing because they're such inspirations to young athletes.
And now you're there, you're with them, you're going to be, sharing a corridor with Keely and the others.
I can't even think about it. I mean, right now I don't really think I'm in it right now. I feel so surreal, and I just can't believe that might be an option and that it's coming. It's crazy to me.
Take us back. Where did it start? Obviously, you're running for St Albans today. How has that city been important to you?
Well, I've got such an amazing support group in St Albans. I used to be a competitive swimmer, and my PE teacher in primary school saw that I had a running gift. So he pushed me to join the St Albans Athletics Club, which was my local club. And I met my coaches, Deborah Steer and Adrian Patterson, over there. And I've been with them ever since because they're so good for me. And they've helped me develop as an athlete and get to grips with the mental side of running, which I didn't think would be a thing when I was young coming into it. But I think it's really affected how I develop in sport, and now I think that I've got the mental part under grips, so it's been great to be with them and grow with them.
Well, back to Wheat Hampstead tomorrow. Congratulations again.
Thank you so much, it's nice meeting you.
Cheers. Thank you.
And Michael, you talking there to Phoebe Gill. She's Britain's youngest athletics Olympian since Lindsay McDonald in 1980, according to our Olympic stat, Hillary, who gives us all this information. Well worth a follow on X or Twitter as well, Hillary Evans. He does some sheep farming as well, but he's excellent on Olympic statistics. So it's quite a record. And I wanted to say that Jack Buckner, I heard him on the radio ahead of this British Championships, and he said, look, we've got a golden generation coming through. It's really exciting. And when you add the likes of Phoebe Gill and Louis, as you were talking earlier, and Molly Caudry, who's also qualified for the Olympics, as we know, the world indoor champion, the European bronze medalist in the pole vault. That was Saturday. She performed. She was like 20 meters ahead of everybody else in the pole vault. It was incredible in the British Championships. You add those three to Dina Asher-Smith, Matt Hudson Smith, Keely Hodgkinson, Laura Muir, Josh Kerr. Suddenly, it feels like 1984. 1992, 1994 World Championships, when you had your Christie, Gunnell and the likes winning races, and we were part of every time that athletics was on, it was exciting, and it was in the papers, and it was on the headlines, and it should be front and center of social media tomorrow, because it has been a brilliant weekend, and you just hope that I don't think they have any fear, these youngsters, and that's what you want them to then go to Paris and just perform totally out of their skins.
Yeah, I mean, if you were to compare them to England's male footballers, and the weight the shirt seems to have on those guys when they go to these major events, these major championships, compare that to some of our track and field stars at the minute. And, I think Jack Buckner and his team at British Athletics deserve a lot of credit for the way they have repointed the elite system in this country over the past few years. We saw a terrific performance at the European Championships in Rome, saw a great World Championships in Budapest, and I think we are set up for what promises to be an exciting Olympic Games. Are we getting slightly carried away because we've watched it this weekend and we've seen some great performances? Probably a little bit. All those names that you mentioned, are they all going to win medals? Probably not, I would suggest. But I think the fact that we've got people that we are talking about, whether that's a teenage sprinter or a teenage Phoebe Gill, who told me in that interview she's started her work experience back at her primary school tomorrow morning in Wheat Hampstead in Hertfordshire. I mean, that's amazing. She's got to sort of come down from becoming British champion and beating Gemma Reekie, her hero. When I say to Phoebe Gill, what's your first Olympic memories? She's talking about Tokyo. She's talking about Los Angeles in 1984. She does have some vague recollections of hockey. London 2012. But yeah, when you say to someone, what's your big Olympic memory? And you and I will go Carl Lewis, we'll go Linford Christie, we'll go Torval and Dean. He's saying, I remember waking up in the night and watching the Tokyo Games. That was only 3 years ago. That's how quickly she's come through as well. And, she's just one great story, I think, on the women's team. It's not often, is it, that someone like Dina Asher-Smith is about third, fourth on the bill, as it were,
Yes.
from these championships.
So she only ran in the 200. Dina.
Yeah, but I think she will double up. I think she will go in the 100 and the 200 along with Daryl Nita. So Daryl Nita won the 100 meters, time of 11.24. She narrowly missed out on the individual medal in Rome at the European Championships, and told me when I had a chat with her yesterday that she's desperate to get an individual medal at a continental or a global championships. She does have a couple of Olympic medals, of course, in relays. And then we saw Dina, who ran a championship record in the 200 meters. And I think Dina is on her way back. I mean, she hit the heights, obviously, in 2019 when she won the World Championship gold in Doha. I think, obviously, the delay to the Olympic Games in 2020 affected her. She wasn't right, as we know, in 2021 in Tokyo. And she didn't look right last year. 8th in the 100 meters in Budapest from memory, 7th in the 200 meters. She's changed her setup. She's found a new coach. She's left John Blackie, although she says they still speak and they talk all the time. She's gone to Texas, and sometimes athletes need that. It's the same way that Katarina Johnson-Thompson relocated to France just to try and mix things up, and then that led to her winning world titles. So yeah, Dina Asher-Smith has mixed things up, gone out to the States, and we've spoken about it before, haven't we? And I kind of spoke to Dina about it a bit today. We've got that Dina v Daryl thing going on again in the 100 and the 200 meters. So I think that rivalry is more in our imagination. Yeah. And something that we want to say more than it is for those two. They both go about their work and their business in different ways. They have different profiles, but they're both going to be on the start line in both those events. And then, all being well, they will then team up together in what looks like it might be an impressive sprint relay team.
And you said earlier, all those people that we are talking about aren't going to win medals in the Olympics, and we get that. But what you want to see is people getting to finals and challenging. And that's what Jack Buckner and his team did with British swimming. You got 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th places in finals, and then you can kick on in the next championships. And that's what we want to see. We've got Birmingham, the European Championships, coming here in 2026, of course. So that's
and you saw how Italy performed in their home European Championships. And, with Birmingham hosting that event, you want to see that level of medal return, don't you, in 2026 that Italy have enjoyed in these last European Championships as well. Yeah, it's a continental championships. It's not global, but it's going to be a big deal. It's being hosted here, of course, in the Alexander Stadium. Athletes seem to like that track. They don't like the track here in Manchester. They certainly haven't liked the conditions. I can't repeat the word that Keely Hodgkinson used about the track here when she came to chat to us, but they do like Birmingham. They right. The athletes all said after the Commonwealth Games that it was a good environment, a quick track. If they get some decent weather, that European Championships will be one to watch.
One slight criticism then of British athletics is that for the second year running, they've had stinking weather in Manchester for the British Championships.
Can't blame them for that.
No, but if the athletes don't like the track and the weather is for the second year running, that I know you can't blame them for that, but it's the same time every year. And so if it becomes a pattern, and you have to try and mix it up. I know they can't come and do it in London at the moment, but you desperately want to be back in the Alexander Stadium, I think. And the real home of British athletics, I feel, is Birmingham, and have felt that since I used to live there as a boy.
You're listening to Anything But Footy. We are the Olympic and Paralympic Sport Podcast. Stay with us as we find out more ahead of Team GB heading to Paris for the Olympic Games.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Coincidence? I think not. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, even at 30,000 feet. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
This is Anything But Footy. We're en route to Paris 2024. We'll rattle through some other names. So Nick Percy was the first qualifier through the discus. He was the first British champion. He wasn't actually the British champion, but he came second. But
he won the silver, and he he was worried. I mean, he came and he just didn't want to actually say I'm going to the Olympics, because he just had it in his head that the champions who had the distance or the height or the time would go, but there was still in his mind this doubt that because he hadn't actually won the championships, that would he definitely be on the team. But I think he's been reassured that he will be selected.
Yeah, he's definitely going. It's in December, and Lizzie Bird also qualified in their events and the hurdles and the steeplechase on the first day. But let's talk about Georgia Bell, because we talked about Dina changing her coach, and Gemma Reekie and Laura Muir have done that, and they've had better seasons this year. But Reekie was beaten by Phoebe, and Laura Muir was beaten by Georgia Bell in the 1500 meters.
Yeah, I mean, Georgia Bell is someone that we have spoken to a few times over the past 6-9 months. And for people maybe that don't know the story, Georgia was a very talented younger athlete, had bags of potential, buckets of potential, but walks away from the sport. Has a great career in cybersecurity in London, which she's with the backing of her workplace, she's taken a break from, because she rediscovered the sport through parkrun. And, you know, if people do parkrun, they'll tell you they do parkrun. And she was doing parkrun and doing well, so thought she'd give it another go. And, you know, here's someone who's in their 30s, at the other end of the scale, if you like. And we'll hear it in a moment. She said, this is probably it. This has been my one shot at the Olympics. Performed terrifically well at the World Indoors in Glasgow. Then again, we spoke to her, didn't we, in Rome at the European Championships. And now he's going to the Olympic Games as well, after winning that 1500 metres. Well, congratulations to you. I know we've spoken 4 or 5 times this year, but this is what you've been working towards now. How does it feel?
Yeah, it feels amazing. I just feel like every track athlete wants to make it to the Olympics. It's our Tour de France for cycling, World Cup for football, so like it's just very surreal. I'm just over the moon, obviously.
Has it begun to sink in, really, what you've achieved over the relatively short space of time since you came back to the sport?
Yeah, a little bit. Like, I took some time this morning just to gather my thoughts and like write it all down. And, you know, I've been in running for a long time, even though I took a big break, and I just thought, you know, it's all kind of leading up to this moment. And I just think that the best thing about it is enjoying it, and I just think that translates and I just wanted to make sure I kept that today, even though it was the highest pressure race, the biggest race I've done in my life, really. But I was like, just keep enjoying it, because that's where the results have come. So tried to stick to that today.
When you say you wrote it down, is that what we call manifesting? What did you write?
I just wrote a few notes on, like, you know, why I'm ready for the race today, how I think the race would go. I don't do that before every race, but I just felt like today felt like a bit of a pivotal moment in my whole like running journey. You know, it might be the only Olympics I ever make. And so, yeah, I just gathered my thoughts a little bit, and it was good to reflect. I actually looked at Power of 10 to see how many races I've done in my life, and I think I counted 280. So, well, after I looked at that, I was like, okay, you know what, I am ready. You know, it's time to go for it today.
And even when you were running in your first spell, did you think the Olympics were something that were going to happen for you at that point?
I was still kind of young. Like, I think you hope that will always be the case. And, you know, in your young, like, teens and 20s, you think the world is your oyster. So in the back of my head, I think I kind of thought it was a given. And then as I got a bit older, I thought, oh, you know, maybe it's actually harder than it looks making the Olympics. And then when I quit when I was like 23, I figured, no, I'll never get back to that now. But it's nice to, finally have it.
Quick final word just about your work that have given you the time to go and fulfill this adventure and this fairy tale that you've achieved.
Big thank you to work. They've been super supportive. You know, I really don't think I would have been able to get to this point. I've had the last 2 months completely off. The laptop has been slammed shut, and that's just allowed me to rest, recover, start going to the gym, and just be like a bit less stressed, which I think has made all the difference. So I'm super grateful. They've been amazing, and very happy.
Well, we'll see you in Paris.
Thank you so much. Cheers.
Superb story from Georgia. I think those are the kind of stories that make you feel warm and fuzzy when when Team GB come round to a naming this athletic squad. They are the names that you like to see in there.
Yeah, and the other thing I would just say about Georgia is she's enjoying it. She's having fun with it. She realises that this probably won't be something that goes on certainly probably not into another Olympic cycle. And she's soaking up every moment and enjoying it with her family and her friends. Has got to know us a little bit over the past sort of 5 or 6 months, and it's always enjoyable and nice when an athlete shows that sort of level of recognition to you, as she has done to me today. That she remembers speaking to us for the first time in Glasgow and the subsequent interviews that we've done. And and she left with the word, I will see you in Paris, and you could not wipe that smile off the face for both her and me, to be honest.
Absolutely. And talking of smiles, obviously, a lot of people very happy to know that they're going to go to Paris. Some of them probably more emotional than others. And I think you made someone cry today.
Yeah, it's always a moment, isn't it, with you and I, in these events that someone will cry. Fortunately, for us, it was happy tears this time, and it was the happy tears of Lina Nielsen. Now, Lina narrowly missed out actually on going to Tokyo. If memory serves, she had the qualifying time, Lina, over the hurdles, but then didn't get it right at the championship, so wasn't selected. Saw her sister Laviai go to the games, but obviously, as we know, it wasn't a games where you could really enjoy the full experience as well. So for Lina to have got there, she had the qualification time, so she got it right in the trials, and then she had this sort of anxious wait to see what her sister was going to do as well. And just before her sister raced, I managed to speak to Lina, and as I said, made her cry some happy tears. British champion and qualified for the Olympic Games. Congratulations. How does that all feel?
Honestly, so surreal. I knew it was there. I knew that all I had to do was come top two today, but honestly, I really wanted that title. I've come to these championships so many years. I've come in with the red bib now, which is, the pressure's there to win, and I just really wanted to have that title. I've never, not indoors or outdoors, ever had a title, not even when I used to do 4 flat. So I really wanted that title, and I think the Olympics will sink in maybe later on this week because that's really something special, and I've waited 10 years to become an Olympian, so really, really, really pleased that I can finally do that now.
Yeah, 2 things to sort of pick up on that. I mean, you enter this sport to win things, don't you? And you've won it today. That must be a great feeling. Yeah, really, really great. Actually, it was 10 years ago that I got diagnosed with MS, and I promised 17-year-old me that I would make her an Olympian, so I made her really proud today. Sorry. I'm finally Olympian, and I read a quote that said, you want it really bad because it's in your future. So really, really pleased about that, and that's all I wanted from being in this sport. Even if I stop tomorrow, not tomorrow, but if I stop at the Olympics, then I've got everything I wanted from this sport. So really, really, really proud of myself. And if you could be super greedy today, to go with your sister as well and compete together, if you could have everything. I was really close to making the last Olympics. I had the standard and I failed at the trial, so today was all about just executing a clean race, and then I remember turning around to my sister and said, at least one of us is going, but now both of us hopefully will be going, so that's really, really, really special, and I'm just going to enjoy it when I'm there, enjoy it with my sister, vlog, just have a good time. Honestly, I'm still a big fan of the sport, so to be in it and be watching it and be participating in it is just so special. So it's a really big year, and I'm just happy and I'm enjoying it. Honestly, it's just been amazing. Well done. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Lina Nielsen talking to Michael through the tears. 400-meter hurdles, she's through, and Laviai as well in the 400 flat.
Yeah, fantastic. Shortly after that, to see Laviai there as well, and they both reference obviously the MS diagnosis that we know about. Lina telling us there in that interview, it's 10 years now since her diagnosis for multiple sclerosis. But how special for those two to be going to Paris and a games where you would imagine lots of the Nielsen family, friends and support group will be able to go out and see the pair of them as well. And one might be handing a baton onto the other potentially in a relay as well. I mean, that is a very special thing, I think, for both of them and for their families and their friends and all those coaches and teachers and PE people that have probably helped to get them there as well. So fantastic to see. Again, 2 athletes that we've spoken to over the years and got to know a little bit, and to see them deliver, and then to see them be so happy and grateful and smiley and appreciative of what they've done and what the people around them have done is a joy to behold.
Talking of being happy with performance, just a quick word on Katharina Johnson-Thompson. I think she was in action a few times over the weekend. She was in the javelin, which was slightly down on her season's best, but a good 200-meter run on the second day.
Yeah, she ran in the 200, got through to the final, but then chose not to run in the final. So I don't think that's anything to worry about too much. I didn't speak to Katerina over the weekend. I spoke to a couple of people that did chat to her and said, she's in good form. She was, good value, but I think she was suffering from a little bit of a cold. Nothing to worry about, but I think for her, just very sensible, just to have, stretch the legs, if you like, in these two events, one on Saturday, one on Sunday. That's what she came to do. There was no need for her to run that 200 meters final. She wasn't looking for a qualification place in the 200 meters. This was just an exercise, part of that process, ahead of her trying to get her hands on that Olympic medal that she hasn't got, although she says, and as she's told me once or twice before when we've spoken, she doesn't see the Olympics as unfinished business for her. She's happy with what she's done in her career. This is just the latest event. But I think if she was to be 100% honest with herself when she looks back on her career from maybe a few years down the line, once she's retired from competitive athletics, I think if she was to be 100% honest, if she doesn't come away from her career with an Olympic medal, there will be just that tinge of disappointment that she didn't do it. Take nothing away from a two-time world champion. I'm not taking anything away from that, but there's something special, isn't there? There's a special currency about winning an Olympic medal.
There is indeed, and we'll keep our fingers crossed for her in Paris. Michael has worked incredibly hard this weekend for Talk Sport, so I'm going to let him just chill for a second and consider before the end of the podcast, when we come back at the end. Go on.
I just want to say one more thing. Did I tell you I'd interviewed and met Carl Lewis?
Well, revel in that moment, because I'm going to ask you for a quick summary of your highlights of the weekend in Manchester. Funnily enough, Carl Lewis might be in there. But let me give you a couple of other Team GB headlines that have come in over the weekend as well. 2 team announcements, and big team announcements as that. One of the sports that Michael thinks we will see an incredible amount of coverage in France, in particular because of the sport that they absolutely love there, and that is judo. And an interesting team, 5 judokas named today by Team GB, all women as well. An Olympic medalist, a world number 1, a world championship medalist, and a Commonwealth Games medalist as well, and a British champion. It is quite the lineup. Chelsea Giles, who won Team GB's first medal in Tokyo, is going to her second games. Lely Nairn, the British champion, is making her debut. Lucy Renshaw, former world number 1, is going to her second Olympics as well. And then 2 debutantes who have had incredible success in the Commonwealth Games and World Championships as well. Emma Reid and Katie Jemima Yates-Brown. So 5 judokas will be representing Team GB in France against the French, who will be very strong in that. On a busy announcement day as well, GB Taekwondo athletes have been confirmed as well by Team GB. 4 on the team sheet this time. Double Olympic champion Jade Jones going in her 4th games after failing to get a medal in Tokyo. She was so disappointed with that, but admitted that she missed her family and crowd, in particular the support system that she didn't have in Tokyo. Can she come back and get an historic another medal? We will see. Tokyo silver medalist Bradley Sinden, world champion as well. He is representing Team GB. And then European champions Rebecca McGowan and Caden Cunningham, both making their Olympic debuts. It does mean, though, there are no Paris places for Tokyo medalist Bianca Cook. Was Bianca Walkden, of course. Lauren Williams as well, who also won silver in Tokyo 3 years ago. And world and European medalist Aliyah Powell as well. They do miss out, but the 4 going for Taekwondo are Jones, Sinden, McGowan and Cunningham.
Yeah, really tough, isn't it, in some sports just to qualify, and if any of those names that you mentioned there, Lauren or Bianca or Aliyah, if they were born in any other country in the world, they would probably be going to the Olympic Games. But because we are so strong now in Great Britain at Olympic sport and Paralympic sport and Olympic disciplines, we see it in boxing. You can only take one person in each weight category. It's the same with Taekwondo. And I imagine there were some very, very long nights at Taekwondo HQ, not far away from where I am now in Manchester, in selecting that team.
As you said in the last episode, the decision has been made. You've got to back it. We'll find out if it's the right decision with who goes when the games is over. And you can only really know that, of course, in a couple of weeks' time. Amazingly, the games are about 25 days away. They're not that far away. So Manchester, I'm hoping the weather's going to be slightly better in Paris in those 25 days' time.
Yeah. Manchester, highlights, my highlights of the weekend.
Don't mention Carl Lewis.
Yeah, my highlights of the British Championship were an American who won 9 gold medals between 1984 and 1996. I think just seeing the British team in such good shape, and seeing the likes of Daryl Neater and Dina Asher-Smith and Keely Hodgkinson, seeing them all happy, seemingly content in their work. They've all come here and done what they needed to do. We obviously had that little bit of an issue in the men's 800 where we saw Josh Kerr and Elliot Giles fall. That was a worrying, concerning moment, but just saw Josh Kerr as I was kind of leaving, and he's fine, and I wouldn't be too concerned about that. So the fact that most people have come through fit and healthy, and have qualified their places, having got the times, gives me a lot of confidence going into Paris that this British athletics team will perform well on the big stage. And I think we probably are trying to identify where maybe the athletics gold medal might come from, and I think Keely Hodgkinson is probably the one that people will say, especially with Atim Mu not qualifying after what happened at the American trials. And then you look at the likes of maybe Dina Asher-Smith, Molly Cordery, obviously Josh Kerr, Jake Whiteman, if he's back fit as well, whether some of those could get medals as well. And as Carl Lewis, who I spoke to this weekend, said, you get through the rounds, you get through the semi-finals, you get into the final, you get a lane, then anything can happen.
Well done yourself this weekend. I know it's been really hard work and cold as well. I'm sitting here in shorts and t-shirt, and you've got a big jumper and a coat on in Manchester. So well done this weekend. Do you want to wrap up the podcast as usual?
Yeah, I just want to say, make sure you continue to follow Anything But Footy across all the social media platforms. We've still got some names, I think, to add to Team GB. We've got plenty more coverage, of course, to come before John and I head out to France, head out to Paris. We'll be out there for the prep camps, of course, and reporting live on TalkSport, an official Olympic broadcaster. You can also read our latest blogs, and I am going to write that blog this week about the changing schedule for LA 2028, where I'm already thinking Carl Lewis should be the man to light the torch. My new bestie, of course. You can check out the sporting calendar on our website, anythingbutfooty.com. Listen to the Spotify Olympics music playlist as well. I give that a search on Spotify, and do stay with us. We are en route via Manchester and everywhere else we've been recently to Paris 2024 and the Olympic and Paralympic Games.
Sports Social Podcast Network.